We're on? We're on, yes. I'll just check it out the marble. Yes, we're on. That there was, let's see, learn from the professional. That there then was vocal stylings of Franz Ferdinand, is that right? Franz Ferdinand, I'm Your Villain. Again, no idea. No, he's choosing these.
It's a pop song.
Using these. Oh, rubbish.
Not the kind of stuff I play.
No, I'm sure it isn't. Me and you were with the Garage Massive. Yes, last night was the Sports Personality of the Year Awards, of course, and tonight we're doing our own awards. It's all very exciting. Yeah, it's all very exciting. Our first award goes to the most unlikely person to miss a podcast because he was on a red carpet, yet he was on a red carpet and missed a podcast. That goes to 50s Throwback Stuart Wright.
Thank you.
True.
Why were you on a red carpet? How did you get on a red carpet? Was it a cleaning contract or something? How did it work?
Funny enough, there was a blue carpet because the cinema chain didn't make it red.
What was the blue?
Somebody we were working with, and he was working with the studio, and he had a ticket, spare ticket going, and we was about to mount the script. He said, "Do you want to come along? I know what you have to show."
So you were someone's
Free
date.
champagne.
I could throw something into that. I've hosted a couple of premieres in Leicester Square, and they normally are red carpet, but for the other guys, starring Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell, it was blue.
I don't know why it was blue. This was the
second-hand carpet, obviously.
Empire Leicester Square for Life of Pie.
Life of Pie?
No, he likes the pie.
Is it good?
No, he likes the pie.
It's
Interesting.
It's like no, it is. It's really good. It's it has. Are we doing film reviews now?
Yeah. Go on.
It's really good. What was surprising was it takes a bit to get going, and then it's like a freaking roller coaster. And the 3D is the best since Prometheus that I've seen. You know, in the sense that it's kind of they make use of it rather than just throw things at.
I'm looking forward to that.
Best kind of roller coaster, a frigging roller coaster, in my opinion. And the second award tonight goes to the most purchases of XXL Liverpool branded clothing in one season. That goes to Wilburforce Mcrimmon Moose.
And I bought this one this very weekend. There you go.
Really? Have you got any clothing that hasn't got the liver bird on it?
Yeah, but only the rubber gimp suit.
Oh right, well, I'm sure you can get
on
it.
the back or the front?
That's
I'm sure you can get it in blazers.
I got my Beats with my Liverpool logo on. So
nice.
Look at you living the dream.
Beats as well, man.
And final award tonight goes to the Top Sport and Garage Music Pioneer, and available to fill in as a celebrity guest when Tony Evans couldn't quite make it. It goes to DJ Smoothie. DJ Spoony, there you go. Nice to see you. Lovely.
Nice,
look at that.
Nice one.
A proper celebrity guest. Look at that.
Don't know about that.
Breathe in the celebrity air.
Have you not won a prize?
I've got nothing. I missed out again.
Next year.
Yeah, hopefully. Talking of missing out, shall we talk about the Villa game? What the fuck happened in the Villa game?
Yeah, you see, you missed out on that, didn't you? Because I went.
Yeah, I did. I was going to take my eldest kid and some sport thing that children playing sport got in the way, but I did miss out on that.
20's Eddie came with 50 stews.
Oh, right, did he?
We did the father and son combo.
Right, okay. And did he enjoy himself?
He enjoyed the day.
I bet the air was blue with your dad watching it, wasn't it? Huh?
Within about an 8-person radius.
Wow, amazing.
It was entertaining. We did some good stuff beforehand. We made a deal to work with someone at the Sandon pub.
Wow.
I don't know
Turn
what's
the
going
music off. Is that your phone?
It's the Spoony phone.
Your phone's going off, Spoony.
Why on earth is it? What's her name?
Monday.
Hey! Come on.
Turn it off if you want.
Nice answer. You know, we went to the Sandon pub beforehand. Kev at the Sandon pub's a top host, and I sort of blagged the guys backstage into a bit of the Sandon's hospitality, didn't we? Which was just as heaving as the rest of the pub, to be completely honest.
My dad was saying that wasn't when he used to go to Sandon with his base for the game. That part of the pub wasn't built.
Oh really?
It's like it's just sort of annex around it.
Put a shed on the back.
And I've got some news for you there, Ian, because we've been invited to do our first Pass and Move live from the Sandon Pub at Anfield in January next year.
Run for your lives.
So we're going to take a mank, potentially 2 Cockneys and you, to talk to a room full of Scousers in Anfield about
Perfect.
Lovely job.
That would go down well.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? So what the fuck happened, Spoony? What happened?
Oh, you know the funny thing is, right? We won our last 2 games. It was a great result last week against West Ham, and I thought, you know what? If we come back against West Ham, we've got Villa at home, and the next 4 games, other than Stoke away, are actually quite winnable. Fulham at home, we've got Cooper away, Sunderland just into the new year, and I thought, all right, if we can nick a point at the Britannia Stadium, that gives us a great run. And now it just feels like we've gone down the head of the snake, back to square number 2, because, you know, I don't know, there were so many things wrong on Saturday.
I did think about the West Ham game. It sort of paper cracks a bit, because, at the beginning of that game, we were fucking terrible in the beginning of that game.
Which didn't, I mean, you can argue that the Southampton game, we didn't exactly, we were never going to lose, but we didn't exactly overrun them with some brilliant football. We did exactly what was needed. They were just going, we don't want to get thrashed, but they were never going to score. But we won 1-0, and then the West Ham game, you thought, would have given us some of that character that they talk about.
I've got a slightly different view on this, because I know Stuart and I were at the same game. We seem to have forgotten that for the first 20 minutes against Villa, we were completely irresistible.
Yeah.
We should have been 4 or 5-0 up.
Yeah.
Well, it comes back to the point you made about 3 weeks ago, though, doesn't it? It's that idea that we can get near the box, near the byline. Yeah. But that final ball, we don't have anyone that seems able to pick a player out.
I've got to be honest with you, like Suarez, as good as he has been scoring goals, there are a couple of situations where a better pass for him would have been nailed on goals.
Well, I wrote down, I mean, the combination of Suarez underused through that lack of creation, but then when Suarez gets it, he's that fed up of not getting the ball that he tries to do it all himself and ends up being wasteful. So
because he doesn't trust anybody
that's
else
what I'm saying,
around him.
Because
that brings in itself its own problems, Ian. I mean, I've got a few notes down here. I mean, what you've got to take on board is for 20 minutes, right? Villa were one of the worst teams. I mean, they're just becoming a procession of really bad teams I'm seeing at Anfield, and really bad teams that if we give the guy the patience, that we should be putting to the sword fairly easily going forward. But Villa were awful.
Oh, they were.
It was shocking. But what we then allowed them to do, because our build-up play doesn't change pace until we give the ball to Suarez. Right? So what then happens is we build up nicely. Stuart and I were joking that we can pass it backwards and forwards. We can pass it from one side of the pitch to the other better than any team in the league at the moment.
All the width and no penetration.
Yeah. And then, which is funny. Yeah.
Hey,
let's just think.
Is this the right show?
That's the point of view.
Let's just think about that.
Let's just think about that one for a second.
So what that happened then when we get to the final third, by that point, because we've been so slow getting the ball forward, Villa all of a sudden then knew we'll just get 9 men behind the ball. 9 men behind the ball, and all they'll do is they'll splat around us. Eventually they'll give the ball to Suarez, and Suarez will eventually lose it. Now we had another one of those occasions, Stuart, that we both commented on, of where John Joe shoots, and John Joe's standing there going, what, you've actually given me the fucking ball? Again, that's twice. First time I make allowances for it. Second time he should have been ready for it. It took an ages to shoot. But the biggest problem was we went so far backwards, in my opinion, because they scored and we went back to the days of Dalglish and Hodgson, because they scored out of nothing. I still think Raiders should have done
really
it trickled in. We were right behind. We were right behind.
I watched it again today. I maybe he was unsighted, but still, he was so slow.
There was no like dive. There was no spring.
There's no pace on.
And I actually looked. I still play a little bit of football, and I thought that Benteke almost gave him the eyes and looked like he was going to curl it to the far post and then whipped it to the near side, but he didn't, and it wasn't like he wasn't going the wrong way. It didn't wrong foot him. It wasn't deflected. Yeah. I hate to say it, but I think it was just bad goalkeeping.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was no spring in the dive. He almost just
fell there. It was like slow motion, because you could see Benteke was shaping to shoot.
Winding up.
Because he got, basically he'd been isolated, because like we said, Liverpool were just in their half, and he's kind of getting dragged further and further back. And he probably thought, fuck this, I'll have a go.
25 yards out, I'll have a go.
And the rest of the game, they just kept knocking it long to him, and he dominated the play.
I looked at that team and thought, that's a decent. That's essentially our strongest team in the moment, but barring Enrique. and you think, well, that must be easy. It must be good enough to beat Villa, and you know, then they to go one down and then just totally capitulate.
Well, that's the capitulation's the one thing. I mean, I've got a few notes here. Sorry, I mean, Villa, our lack of pace, we allowed Villa to get 9 men behind the ball so easily. Everything, and we waited for them to get 9 men behind the ball in most cases. I've got down here. Our midfield obviously works on a rotating 3, right? We've had this explained before, where we have either has the 1 sitting and the 2 going
which
forward,
was
or
Lucas.
the 2 sitting. Yeah. Now, what Villa did really well, because we obviously operate through Shitface on the left hand side and Glenn Johnson on the right hand side. Now, what then they were working really, really well is when those 2 guys go forward, you'll notice Johnson goes down and will stay 3/4 of the way, and Lucas then trots in behind the right back, or if he goes, he trots in behind the left back. Lucas was awful on Saturday. What made the matter even worse was Alan was so far off the pace, and Alan's the recovery midfielder. So all Villa did was wait for a fullback to go, drop a midfielder into the space, but then also put one in behind Downing. And because Downing can't defend, that guy was totally unmarked. So you had Lucas standing into the pitch with 2 sides of the pitch to cover, and Joe Allen was away with the fairies. And then the other problem, just before I let go, is and the skipper doesn't defend.
But you've got you know, you've got a manager here. We've all said before. You know, he's quite bold when he needs to be. But you've got 3 midfield players there. Gerrard's way off the pace. Has been for like a season and a half now, and just not performed this season at all. You've got Joe Allen, who's fucked. He's exhausted.
I think he's come out today and said he needs to rest him.
And Lucas, who's just not fit yet, is he? You know, so you've got those 3 players. But you've got Sahin. You've got Henderson. You can play those players.
Don't play Shelvey as wide.
And you don't say Shelvey wide. Shelvey's a
three.
central midfield player.
So I think that Sahin might be, he's not strong enough as yet, and we haven't got enough big strong players around him to accompany. If you've got that midfield 3, which is effectively your engine and powerhouse, but with him and Joe Allen, they're a little bit too lightweight to be playing centre midfield. There's not enough smash, there's not enough bite in there. All right, but as much as we're saying Gerrard has been off the pace, I would play Gerrard up next to Suarez.
Yes, so would we.
And I think the thing is, if Gerrard picks the ball up 20-25 yards from goal, he's the one player that we know can hit it and hit the target. He's also the player that's confident enough to play a 1-2, to chip it with his left foot, to play around the corner with his right foot. And when we're struggling, and we are struggling to have that little bit of creativity. So, you know, if you look at Chelsea, where, you know, they've got Mata, they've got Hazard, or, you know, Man City have got Silva, where in and around those areas, someone does something just a little bit different.
Player I saw,
we need Gerrard playing nearer to Suarez.
I saw an Italian lad who's playing very well this season. Aquilani.
How much he's available
I don't know whether he'd be available, but he's having a cracking season.
We could buy him back as well, and we'll buy him back.
The
other thing I would say about the midfield is that we seem to, however the makeup is in terms of who's strong enough or whatever, but we seem to have we have a riddled problem, which is we never have anybody in the box when we're attacking, but we get caught out with no midfield when they catch on the break. It's like, where does that midfield go?
No, it's because the problem, again, we've covered this many times. The problem you've got is our transitional play from defence to midfield is very, very good. Probably, I would say up there with Man City's is the best.
From defence to midfield.
From defence to midfield is excellent. From midfield to the forward line, our transition play is appalling.
Well, yeah, that's the only bit that actually matters.
Exactly. But we still lost 3-1. That's the problem. We lost 3-1 and we didn't chase the game at any point. You look at the other problems you got there. What the hell happened to Martin Skirtle? What on God's name? Did they start someone else out there in his boots?
The funny thing with that is, right, Benteke, he is a powerhouse. All right. Now, on a normal day, I would fancy Skirtle to play against those powerhouses. You know, whether it be Drogba, Benteke, you know, those big players. However, there were times when, and I'm not blaming Agger because it might have been, but Agger wasn't close enough to him. Now, when you're playing as a centre partnership like that, if the other centre half is close to you, you know you can get touch tight to your striker, right? If he's not close to you, you can't do that. Now, what Benteke did, because Skirtle wasn't touch tight, he would just turn, and once all of that muscle and that strength and pace turns and goes, you can't get near him.
Watching Joe Allen on the third goal, it looked like Joe Allen like a 12-year-old trying to bring down.
Well, the second goal. Where was the defence in the second goal?
The second
goal was the best goal I've seen at Anfield all season.
It took 3 players on that back heel.
I stood up and applauded that because you had to. They absolutely took us to the.
But where's the centre half?
Yeah.
Where's like one goes with the runner and where's the other one?
The other one's ball watching.
And they're only playing effectively. They were only playing one up front.
That was the mad thing. They didn't seem to know. They were almost like, do we stick or bust on this one? Because the second ball would see. After about 30 minutes, you think, let's go for the second ball. Let's not even bother with the first one.
The other problem, I mean, you mentioned Agger. For me, they played Agger perfectly because Agger, I think, has looked fairly imperious most of this season. But what Agger they did was they because Lucas was so far dragged out of the game. So what we were saying is Lucas is going to cover him behind Johnson or Shitface, and then.
Do you mean Downing by that?
Yeah, by the chance.
Sorry.
Shitface is what you could. That's his. Ian's technical description of his abilities.
He's a bit of a shithouse, but in the sense that in a tackle he's a shithouse. That's what I mean. I wouldn't refer to him as shithouse because I'd get confused with Joe Cole.
Yeah. But you've got for example, Lucas was going and track behind the fullback, right? So they've all they had to do was literally put one runner in there, right, which would normally be Wyman in that, and then they just run. Two or three of theirs would run at the middle, and you said you got Benteke occupying Skirtle, and Agger had two. Agger had 2 runners every single time.
Where's Lucas? I mean, we don't even need Lucas to be in the opposition half.
No.
And anyone that runs in that area, and I'll go back to when Makelele used to play for Chelsea. They never used to concede goals like someone running down there because Makelele was always there. Mascherano would be always in the centre of the pitch, and they'll shuffle. 10 to the left, 10 to the right as cover, but there would always be there or
that's
thereabouts.
The second game this season, and I hate to say the first one was Arsene Wenger, where everybody thinks he's lost the plot, where I've seen the opposition manager totally outthink Brendan Rodgers. They didn't have a clue. Did not have a clue. Our in-game management on Saturday was appalling. And then we come to the substitutions. Fuck me, I'm faster in thought and deed than Joe Cole.
It's just if you're being outrun in midfield and you're being outbossed and outpaced in midfield.
Who do you reach for?
I think I might get on someone who's 39 and stone, and I mean Joe Cole, he's it's not fair. He's a lovely lad. I'm sure he's a lovely lad, and he really, really wants it to work, but it isn't going to. And I just think we just need to accept that. The bus has
left the station.
Yeah.
See, the interesting thing, and I think if you look at the bigger picture, that we started the season short, very short in depth, and it was always going to be a case of can we get to January there or thereabouts and slightly intact. Okay, now a win on Saturday, and I actually think we've almost exceeded expectations.
We'd have been giddy if we'd have won on Saturday.
Yeah, if we'd won on Saturday, looking at the next 4 fixtures, I'm thinking, wait a minute, we can do something here because we are just too light. There's too many areas where we aren't quite there. Raheem Sterling, as good as he's been, he should have been our plan B. 20 minutes to go.
Plan C, even,
But he has been one of the shining lights. So far, he's at 17. He's 18 now.
And all the pressure on him, because obviously he was an outlet that's supposed to support Suarez. So he's being put on a par with Suarez.
Yeah.
And his first touch just went from the minute one anyway. And the poor kid couldn't control the ball, so he was getting good passes out of Gerrard and off Suarez, but he was losing.
That's going to happen, and he's 18.
And the poor kid needed a rest.
And that's what happens. Every football coaching manual tells you that when you're a young player and you get exposed, eventually your muscle reaction time will go. Everything will go, and everything that comes so naturally to you all of a sudden feels like bloody hard work. But the other thing was, he couldn't go. I mean, he does need a rest because it's Stuart. He couldn't go past anything.
No.
I mean, there was one run where he nearly got brought down for a penalty where he can't remember the fullback's name, but he absolutely skinned it.
It was the first time that as well.
But
2 minutes to
again,
go.
If he's coming on with 20 minutes to go fresh, he will be any defender's nightmare. Now I remember earlier in the season when we played against Man City, and he was up against Colo Touré. Now considering Colo Touré has had hundreds of Premier League appearances, he's a strong boy. Raheem Sterling was taking the ball to feet next to him and holding him off for strength. But if he's going to play week in, week out, the Europa League games where he should have been rested, he still had to travel and come on because we're in that precarious position. And really, he's had to live the season like a seasoned pro. It's a lot. It's too much for an 18-year-old.
But but we've got Assaidi. Assaidi's got as much, probably even more experience than. Not by now. Assaidi had been injured, hadn't he? But he's fit now.
He's fit now, yeah.
And a couple of games. He had a couple of stinkers, but he's also had 3 or 4 really good games.
He looked really good.
But why are you starting Shelvey wide left against Villa?
I don't know. Why aren't you playing Shelvey central midfield?
I know Shelvey played well as my phantom number 9 the previous week, but if you're not going to play him in the middle of the 3, then he shouldn't be up there at all.
And this is the difficulty that I think has faced Brendan Rodgers, is that there've been a couple of players this season that have played out of position and played well, and then he's almost felt obliged to play them the next week.
Suso,
there you go. The Enrique Downing situation, that when Enrique's gone to play left midfield, he's played the best he has played this season. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He's had a goal and 2 assists in 3 games or something.
Let's come back to Shithouse. Because he's thank God. Thank God he's been told he can leave today.
But I thought, the one thing that it was a bit like when Enrique wasn't playing too hot, is that he's always the outlet ball because Downing has natural width in the way he plays football. And so if you put on the left, he sticks to the touchline. But then, what brain cells in his head are telling him to cross a ball to nobody?
Wait, hey,
hold. Before you go, I've been waiting since the final whistle blew on Saturday to hear Iain Coyle's opinion on Stuart Downing. You ready for this? Good.
Right.
I know what's going on.
Stuart Downing, okay, when he was playing with Carroll, okay, the amount of games, I don't know how many games he played with Carroll, but he must have crossed the ball.
At least a dozen.
Genuinely not even that. He must have crossed the ball to Carroll about 5 or 6 times for the whole period of time they played.
Do you want to know, because I did this, it's 29 games together.
29 games together. And genuinely, I would watch it and I got obsessed with it. And the amount of times a lad with pace and who can cross a ball and with skill who can beat a man, the amount of times he'd take the ball, run down a wing and then come inside. Down a wing, come inside. Oh, we'll swap him over to the other wing. Down a wing, come inside. Down. And you've got a kid there who can win the ball in the air against anybody. So, Carroll leaves. Okay, we go, well, we're not sure whether they're going to fit in the system or not, and actually, he's not getting the service. Carroll leaves. Downing comes on the pitch. All he can do now is fucking cross the ball. He's just crossing the ball all the time.
Do you know how many crosses Downing made against Villa?
Go on.
18 crosses against Aston Villa. 18 crosses.
He did
no one.
And you just think, how does that happen? Because I know they've got lots of people who do all these, they'll do a computer simulation and they'll do all this kind of thing. Let's track him. And you'd be sat at the back going, sorry. You were brought to cross to the big man in the middle there. You're not crossing the ball to the big man in the middle. Could you do some more of that? All right, yeah, okay, I can do that. And then now he's pumping the ball into the middle of the box, and there's no one there. There's just no one there.
The thing there again, you look at the height of our strikers between Suarez and Sterling, and the average height is most probably 5'8" against defenders that are normally average height.
You wouldn't happen to know what that is in centimetres and inches, roughly? Just because if you do happen to know, might come in useful in 24 hours' time, that information, but that's all I'm going to say.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head. But the point I'm making is with the strikers being that height, he actually should now be looking to come in and cut inside and play 1-2s in and around the box. Yeah. That's what he should be looking to do. Because the truth of the matter is, you're going to get a lot more out of Sterling that way, and there's no getting away from the fact that Suarez loves the ball in and around the box to feet. 1-2s around the corner. Happy days.
Suarez loves to create goals for himself, and without anybody else being there, he gets the most assists for himself because there's nobody else to do it.
I have to say though, I thought the week off had obviously not done Louis any favours because I thought he was frustrated at the weekend.
Can I ask you a bit of question? Because obviously we were all expecting to win because we were all kind of got. Yes. None of us believed bloody Brendan Rodgers we can finish second, Malarkey. That's a different. That's a different thing. But was Saturday a sort of bad day at the office or a genuine game you can judge?
I
Liverpool
don't
on
think
this
it's
season?
papering over cracks at all. I think it was. I honestly think that we thought they would win. Brendan thought they would win. And the team thought they would win.
Okay, so
Well,
complacency crept in.
again, I'm not completely sure. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully it was I sort of asked exactly the same question. Was it an off day, or you know, is this the future? Is this what's going to happen? Is this not quite? Is he?
Like an advert to FSG. Can I have some
I'm
players?
going to throw this out there that I think in sports the difference at the highest end psychologically that the talk in the week of finishing second was very premature. Just because I think not because it's so early in the season, but I think we've only just come on a run. We've had 2 wins and we hadn't lost for 6 games. But when the manager starts saying stuff like that, the players start thinking, right, now we've turned the corner. Now at that level, 1 or 2%, 5% is a massive difference. Now, you know, I was in Istanbul and you're not meant to lose the Champions League final winning 3-0 at half time. But they already thought they had the game won. And that's why they lost the game. Because if they had said, we've got another 45 minutes and we're going to win this game 6-0 or we're going to try and score another 3 goals, they don't lose that final. They're touching the cup, they're singing, they're cheering, no one's most probably listening to the manager, they end up losing it. And I think, going back to 2008-2009 season, when Rafa came out and did the whole fact speech against Man United and we're flying high, again, I think it just came off the boil a little bit. And if you look at all of those instances...
rather than disappear under the radar,
stay quiet.
Brendan, which is a subject we're going to talk to Spoony about later, Brendan did a whoa!
There we are.
And he's done that 3 or 4 times
it
this
would have
season.
been so much easier for him just to go, we're looking forward to the Christmas run and hopefully we'll come out of that with a higher league position than where we are now. And we'd have all bought that, wouldn't we?
The other thing,
it's not overreaching.
obviously we've got news and stuff to cover, but the other thing I'm really annoyed about is I've had enough of shop window. Shop window for Cole and shop window for Downing cost us the game at the weekend. And lots of many other things. I know we didn't have an awful lot of replacements, but I've had enough of shop window now.
So you would have preferred Glenn Johnson and Wisdom as the fullback?
By a long way. By a long way. It's the ground, the disbelief in the ground when Joe Cole came on. You just went. Everybody sat there and went, "What?"
But again, Brendan Rodgers is going to say he's a goal threat because he scored a goal 2 in his last 3 games. He's got a threat in him. He's got a goal in him. If he gets into those positions, and you find it tough to argue. But then when you look at it retrospectively, you think, oh yeah, it was obvious. But these are the decisions that the manager has to make.
Okay, should we do transfers very quickly?
No, transfer. A bit of news. Obviously, the most important bit of news today is Spoony. What was released today, Spoony?
Obviously, he's not heavy.
I bought. Have you bought it?
I haven't bought mine yet. I'm not waiting
I
until the
bought me
weekend.
and my mum. I sent my mum one as a present.
All right, lovely.
And as I said, we had John Bishop and King Kenny selling our calendars in the centre of Liverpool today in the HFSG store because they were all manning HMV because HMV could obviously do with their little percent that they're getting as well at this particular moment. Other bits of news I've got: Martin Kelly turning down a 35 grand
I've got
contract.
that. Yeah, I've got that as well. And
has he?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously, I think...
He's an England player, isn't he, I guess?
He's an England player, and you know what? I think at 35 grand a week, compared to what some of the other players are on, I think he's within his rights to turn down 35 grand a week.
Apparently, I'm told today...
That's 2 grand less than I get,
I'm told today that Sterling's going to settle for a 25 grand a week contract, and that should be sorted out before Christmas.
25 grand a week? Yeah. Is that all we've offered him?
Yeah.
Wow. I bet you it steps up after 1 year though.
That's
I can't imagine.
If that's a deal, that's one of the deals of the season. I think if you can get him for 25 grand.
I think with Martin, if I was Martin Kelly's agent, I would look at the fact that Carragher is most probably going to retire at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I almost have it on good authority that he will retire at the end of the season, and then Martin Kelly can effectively be that next centre half. I think he's ahead of Quartez in the pecking order.
You're right because your backup 2 is Quartez and Kelly for Agger and Skirtle. That's it. That's the 2 mighty. Apart from that, over to you, sir. What have you got for us?
Well, I got your Sterling. I've got your Martin Kelly. I've got your Joe Cole to QPR.
Yeah.
That looks as though it's going to happen because Harry's he's a good player. Why not wind it down?
No. They do windows like that.
Sorry.
Press a button.
He's got a nicer car than me.
There's none of that anymore.
He's got a nicer car.
He's not joking.
Unless of course you're doing that on the Mercedes Pagoda.
Yeah, that's actually. I think that's what I've got. Yeah, I've got that. I mean, I would imagine knowing Joe Cole and knowing Harry, we'll end up paying all his wages, and he'll end up paying.
No, we don't do those. One thing I can say, one of the things I do like about FSG is if you go, you go. Right, look at the Carroll deal. We made money out of Carroll, and we've made money for the season. We haven't paid Carroll's wages. They've picked the entirety of his wage bill.
So they should.
Yeah. So if Carroll, I think it'll be. Well, as I said earlier, Rogers has said to Stuart, "Thank you very much and good night today. That's it. Go and find yourself another club in January." So, yeah. Stuart's disease, but you really wanted that to succeed, the left back experiment, didn't you? So
I just think as a professional, as an England player, as was. He's got to look at himself there and think, that's it, he's now saying to everybody, actually, you know what, I'm not good enough to make it at a big club. Sorry, so that's fine. I'll go back to Middlesbrough.
I guess he's going to Middlesbrough, isn't he?
Yeah, of course they're going to Middlesbrough. He'll be captain of Middlesbrough next season in the Premier League, and they'll do really well.
What else have we got? Anybody else got any more news for us?
I've got. I was going to ask you about the. He's convinced that the Sturridge and the Inns deals are done deals. Yeah. Have you got any?
I've heard the Sturridge deal is done, and it's a shame with Inns, isn't it? Because if he had waited effectively another 6 months, Rodgers, he would be doing what Sterling's doing. He would be playing every week for us.
As Moose said, we've saved that period of time. We had a buyback clause, so we're buying him back cheaper.
Yeah,
we've saved on his wages.
We've saved on his wages, so actually it's not a bad.
And he's had a year's worth of top experience.
Rodgers didn't sell him, though, did he? It wasn't
Douglas sold him.
I'll tell you, the last one. Sorry, James has just given this to me. We spoke about this earlier in the week. Voronin was caught going to his wife's birthday while signed off sick at Fortuna Düsseldorf. So he's been cheating.
I imagine. Do you remember those pictures of his wife? I would imagine that would be a lovely high class do. That would be.
Whoa! It'd been right up there with Danny Guthrie's wedding.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, absolutely. I've got loads of others this week.
We got the one exclusive we got was from the last caller on when we were.
Can we save that because I've got that as one of my questions for this gentleman.
I've got Turan again today. Ardar Turan. He's been linked with us for the last 5 years. Apparently, he wants to leave. He's at Atletico. Again, he's a very good player. And then a collection of names are. I know I'm not a great at pronunciations, but how about these ones? Valencia winger Sofan Feghouli.
Should I save you here? Save you the grief here, right? It's going to be Ince, Sturridge, and if we can get him, Walcott, and that's it.
Now, you know what? Someone said to me the other day,
that'd be better.
You know what? It would be, but I wouldn't have mind Demba Ba.
Demba Ba. You want to know where Demba Ba is going to be wearing? You've mentioned him 3 times this season.
The reason I say Ba, right? The reason I say Ba because he's different to all the other strikers we've got, where you can see Walcott. There's a little bit of Ince. There's a little bit of Sterling in there. You know, Sturridge is a little bit Suarez-esque. Demba Ba can play right up on the centre half, hold it up, take it on his chest. You know, he's a big 6 foot plus, and Suarez. He would be the perfect foil for Suarez. Perfect foil.
None of those players, bar probably, but apart from all the other players, they're not goal scorers. We need a goal scorer.
Hence Bar.
I've also got.
If we're that nailed on, do you know? Just out of interest, then, is that going to be from January, or we have to wait the whole of January to get?
No, the only one you might get screwed around by is if Arsene. If Arsene knows he's going to go, and there are a couple of people on other podcasts indicating that if Arsene says he's quite rightly, if Arsene says he's not going anywhere, then he's definitely on his way out the door. Then he will make it as difficult as possible and not let him go until the last.
He'll have a sulk, won't he? Yeah. He's one of those guys that, you know, at school, if they gave you detention, you would do in an hour and 2 minutes, not 45. You would there, and he's got that look about him, hasn't he? Anyway.
So that's that unpronounceable Algerian winger from Valencia. I've also got Bafétimbi Gomez, Lyon striker, 10 goals in 18 games.
I spoke to most journalists today, and they've all said anything you see bandied around Liverpool between now and the 1st of January will not happen.
Really? Christian Eriksen again, I've heard. Honda, I've heard again today.
I mean, that's been
Galatasaray striker Yilmaz.
Yilmaz, yeah. I mean, the Honda one's been driving about since last year.
Oh, let's have a party.
Come on, everybody.
That's a good catchphrase.
David Villa, like you said, was
David Villa's 31, he's 31, it's not good.
Yeah, I know, but if you can get him cheap in the summer, then
we didn't sign Clint Dempsey because he was 29. They don't really want to spend any money on anyone over 26.
I think if you're going to pick up Ince and you pick up Sturridge, I think buying and I'm not saying it will be done, but buying a proven 30-year-old striker isn't a bad thing to do for a couple of seasons.
If he's available,
we really could do.
We'll see it, but FSG don't. I think we're running short on part one, Ian.
All right, and then very quickly, last one, Reina to Arsenal. Do you think it's going to
Reina to Arsenal, 8.5 million, which is very disappointing. Nowhere near the money that they want. Could happen in January. Jack Butland to Liverpool for £6 million.
Could the Reina to Arsenal then speed up the Walcott to Liverpool?
Yes, that's apparently. So I should have brought up earlier. That is Wenger's stick. If he's going to go to Liverpool, then I want something back. So.
To be honest,
they've had 3 points out of us. So
to be honest with you, I've always felt that we don't do enough trades like that. I don't think Benitez, I don't think Kenny, I don't think Roy Hodgson at times. They could have been a little bit more creative with their transfers. Like when we did sell Torres to Chelsea, I think rather than just getting the 50 million in cash, we should have had some players back. When we sold, Alonso to Real Madrid. There was, you look at the players. Schneider was about. Van der Vaart was about. What's
all the people?
All the people. Diarra was about.
All the people that they offered us to us on loan 18 months later to fill the hole of the bloke we'd sold.
Too late.
Just before we go, obviously, don't forget Pass the Move from this week. 3 episodes going out 3 nights on iTunes and your SoundCloud. Also on your YouTube. So subscribe to all of those things to get your free Pass the Moves 3 parts.
So part 2, we're going to do questions to Spoony. Have you been told this? Yes, it's questions to you.
I've been told, but I haven't been told what the questions are.
So we'll see you all in part 2.
Exciting.